everyone, welcome to this week's Karma Cards. It's coming at you a little later this week because the energy has been intense and it got to me. It literally got to me. Wednesday is usually when I like to record. Today is Friday. Wednesday, it was like someone knocked me over with a feather. That's how tired I felt. And then yesterday was the same thing. I kept waking up and I'm like, today's the day. And it just didn't happen. And you know what? That's what it's going to be like when we're going through these energy upgrades. We have to have that grace and compassion with ourselves when we find that the energy is just a little too much to take. And if that's how you're feeling this week, you are in good company, because that's how it's been. Because, well, first of all, we started the week on Tuesday with a super full moon in the sign of Aquarius. And it had with it a couple of big energies that were coming through. One of the biggest was, or the most intense, I should say, was the Mercury opposition to Saturn. So this energy was really interesting because it was sort of a dose of truth serum that would either come at you or come through you, or maybe both. But it was information that you needed to hear. It was helpful, but it might kind of feel harsh when you hear it. Might be like, I don't know, someone telling you that you need to change your routine because what you're doing isn't working, or you need to change some habits because here's the sabotage that I see. Things like that, where it's a cold hard truth coming at you, but its intention is to help you. Now, the difficult part of that interaction isn't so much the information coming at you, but how you receive it. And of course, it was aligned with the full moon. Full moons tend to be a very emotional period, although this full moon was in Aquarius, which is the least emotional sign that's out there. So I feel like it helped soften the blow a little. But if you were emotional in hearing that cold hard truth, or giving the cold hard truth, and that's where the pain and suffering comes from. Having an objective sense of detachment while receiving it actually gives you that information that you have been feeling like you are pushing a boulder up the hill to get. Well, that information has come through. So if you haven't received it, if you're not getting it, maybe go back this week, look at any conversations that you've had where you felt like that stung or that was harsh, and see now that you have some separation from that moment if the objective information is there for you, and it might just be the key that helps you move forward. Also this week, the Schumann resonance was spiking around. We had I think on the day of the full moon, I think it spiked up to 57. Today it's only at a 9, so it's a little bit lower. But again, it's like high energy coming in. And the KP index, the electromagnetic field, also was going off. We had spikes up to 5, and it goes to 9. So 5 is more intense, and we tend to feel it when it hits a 5 or above. And today, Friday, August 4th, it's also at a 5. So you might be feeling that energy today. I don't know. It feels like a roller coaster. So if you're having a hard time regulating with this energy, staying energized, give yourself a break. It's been a lot to process. Some of the most energetic people I know are even feeling it and feeling extra sleepy. So if that's you, take the cue to rest, let yourself recover, and receive the downloads and upgrades that are coming through with all this energy at this time. So the message coming through from my team for this week is a kind of contradictory one. So bear with me as I try to work it out. I'm going to do my best to deliver this message to you the way that I'm getting it, but the pieces of it individually almost feel like they contradict each other, and yet I'm told that this is a cohesive message that works well together. The first message I got from the team, I got the 2 of Swords in the reverse position, and what this is letting us know is it's a time for taking action. There is some action to take, and they're letting me know it's connected to that bit of information that you have been searching for. It may have come through that harsh message or the reality check that's coming in, but it's time to take action on whatever objective information has come forward for you. It is the key to help you. So again, if you feel like you have been pushing to try and make a change and nothing's happening, you keep hitting that brick wall, it is time to take action, but weirdly through rest. The action is to stop pushing. The action is to surrender. The action is to realize that right now, the forward direction you're trying to go with that, whatever it is, that's not the way. There's a back door to take. So you, instead of going through the front door, you're going to go through the back door. And the back door in this case is a surrender type action or a resting action, and let it work itself out. Now, weirdly, the other part of the message is, so I just said, let it work itself out. And then the other part is that your hand is the hands that God will use to create a difference in your world. So here we're being told, take action. The action is rest, and your hand is a hand that God is going to use to help you make this change. Really contradictory, right? So the action's rest, your hand is the hand. So part of it is recognizing that if you're being asked to rest, that you take your hands off of whatever you're pushing on. So first, take the hands off. Second, take a moment to assess whether or not the actions you are currently trying to push forward that don't seem to be moving are coming from a place of fear and lack. So last week, you remember I said there's this big fear test that happened. The test is over. Test is resolved, but now we have to take the information we learned from the test and use it to assess our current situation. So by taking our hands off of the pushing, stepping back for a moment, surrendering to what is, and recognizing this can work itself out, if I go into that place where I am being objective about the action I'm currently trying to take, is this coming from a place of fear and lack? Am I trying to avoid or prevent something that I believe if I do these actions, it will avoid or prevent it? Or are my actions coming from a higher place where I'm actually trying to give something out, right? So if let's say it's work related, and you're coming from a place of scarcity of income, right? Scarcity of income has happened, so you're pushing, and they're saying, stop, take your hands off, step back, and look at how you're doing this. Are you trying to put something out in the world that is truly you giving something that you have, whether it's information, knowledge, energy, nurturing, whatever that thing is that you're giving? Are you giving it from that pure place of I have this to give, or are you doing it in a transactional way where you're trying to, save your own butt? Which is, we're trained to do that, and it makes sense. It all comes from that survival instinct which lives in our root chakra, and that since all things get processed there first, what they're asking is, have you managed to process the situation and your feelings around it and move it up into a place where now you can see, why is this situation here? What am I supposed to learn from it? What can I glean from this and give back out? If we're not getting to that part, then we're stuck in the fear, in the scarcity, in the lack, and we start to really hold on. And when we're holding on, what we're doing is, you can see it, we're constricting energy, right? So if you want to be a good receiver, you have to open up. And in opening up, we kind of give, right? There's a giving energy that comes from that. So if we're in a scarcity lack mindset, we are closing the fist. We are tightening the, they keep showing me that garden hose, right? We're bending the garden hose and we're cutting off the flow in our own life because we're squeezing onto it so tight. We're trying to hold on. And they're letting us know that this does cut off the flow of not only what you're receiving, but what you can give. You're not giving from this place. And so it's taking you out of the natural cycle of exchange. So money is in the natural cycle of exchange, right? So the natural cycle of exchange is, I give something out, things come back. When we're holding on, when we're trying so hard to keep what we've got or to make things work, we are outside of a natural cycle. And that's why things seem to stop. They don't seem to flow. So the message is, by unclenching the fist, letting go of the hose, letting it relax, and stepping back, taking our hands off, we're going to open up the flow. Things work themselves out. So it's an action that's based on a surrender versus a pushing. And hopefully, as you put everything together, that whole message makes sense. It was a tricky one to put together this week, but I got there, and I hope that you understand it and you can see how that's going to benefit you as you move forward. But now let's get more information by looking at the karma cards. Right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team what's the message for this week, and I've got 2 sets of answers. A set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel what is the guidance that you want this week. Action related guidance. Do you want to see how things turn out? Or you can always choose both. While you're choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This is for August 4th through August 9th. And the flavor of this reading, we've got Jupiter. Jupiter was a big player with the recent full moon that just happened. It was the planetary subruler, and it made this awesome T-square with the sun and moon, creating a big energy that day as well. It's currently still in a square to the sun, which I think is really interesting that it's active. In the sign of Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the optimist, it's the big thinker, it's seeing the bigger picture, and it talks about our personal philosophies. In the 11th house, which is ruled by Aquarius, which is where the full moon just happened. So this is great. This is coming up. But this is about our groups, our friends, and our hopes and wishes for our future. Your spiritual action at this time is to learn or teach your highest ideals for humanity's sake. I feel like this ties into the message that the team had given us this week pretty well, because part of what it was talking about was that cycle of exchange. Right? And when we go into that, it's not only what can I get, what can I give, what can I receive is also a part of it, right? So I'm receiving, but I'm also giving. And when we're doing this, we're moving out. So the highest ideals, right? If we're looking at the chakras, and I'm telling you that those survival instincts are in your lowest chakra, your root chakra. And your ideals are in your highest chakras, right? Your upper 3 chakras are where we're working with higher ideals. So it's asking us to learn from and understand the highest ideal of the situation that you're going through. And again, this requires that hands-off, objective ability to look at a situation, what's going on, not just what I'm afraid of happening, but what am I learning from this? This is one of the key phrases that the team keeps giving me to talk about. What am I learning from this situation? That immediately helps draw the energy up through your body. It helps it process on all different levels. And then we're working with our soul lessons, our destiny, what we're here to do. So this is asking us to basically focus on that at this time. Mental action at this time. Be positive about the rules of your hopes and wishes. Again, we're going to have to allow ourselves to be objective, get out of the direct situation, and move back into our observer self to look at, number 1, our hopes and wishes. And what would the rules of those be? Right? So let's say you wanted to create something big, like you wanted to leave a mark on the world. Well, what do we know about? What are the rules of leaving a mark on the world? There are a set of rules. One rule would be that in order to get a big reward like that, you have to risk big. You have to have the courage to step out of your comfort zone quite a bit of a way in order for you to be effective at creating big change. So that's one of the rules that we can look at. So you might hear that and be like, you might focus on the getting out of my comfort zone, get really uncomfortable, and they're letting you know, no, think about the positives of that. What does that do? So you pause for a minute and consider that. What's the positives of getting far outside my comfort zone? Well, I am alert and present because I need to be, because I'm not familiar with the surroundings. I'm learning faster. I'm adapting. There's so many benefits to getting outside our comfort zone that we're not focused on, because again, you say comfort and immediately it drops down into your lower energy centers, where comfort is very important, right? But in order to do the bigger things in our life, in order to reach the hopes and wishes, your hopes and wishes in your body live higher in your energy. Your comfort lives lower. They're not even in the same vicinity from each other. So you're going to have to transcend the need to be comfortable in order to reach your potentials. And so this is something to meditate on, but meditate with the intention of trying to see the positive aspects of moving in that direction, rather than focusing on what you think you're going to lose. All right, physical action at this time: grow and expand, get out into the world, and do it for the future. So it's letting us know that this is that time. This is such a, see, do you hear the contradiction in these messages? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it sounds more cohesive on the outside, but on the inside it feels very contradictive, because we're asked to take your hands off the wheel, surrender, rest in this for a moment, get really objective, like step out of it in order for you to move forward, take bigger actions, move in a direction that's actually in alignment with where your soul is trying to go, and how important it is for you to create that future vision of yourself. So again, it feels both contemplative, but a very active form of contemplation. There's a lot of strategy even in this type of contemplation. They're asking us to consider where's your mindset now? Now move it here. So there's a lot of internal work basically going on in this next week. Now let's look at what outcomes look like for Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 11th house of the future, hopes and wishes. The spiritual outcome at this time is the granting of insights to understand freedom. So again, all of this pulling back, all of this stopping the push, stopping the forcing, actually, one, it sets you free from that direct situation. No longer am I struggling, I am surrendering the struggle. And two, if you're working really hard right now to set yourself free from your current circumstances, you need to do this internal work that we're talking about right now, where you're actually getting out of the comfort zone, you're going into a bigger mindset, you're actually asking yourself to get uncomfortable, and that discomfort, the growth really is what we're talking about, the growing, that's going to create the freedom that you're seeking right now. Mental outcome at this time: blessings from the wisdom of associations. All right, so the friends, right? You know how they talk about you're an amalgamation of the 5 people that you are around the most, and that is true. But you can also utilize this network. There is, again, it's a contemplation period where you might actually ask for objective information from people that you trust, right? And we're not going to ask it from just anybody, but someone who you feel like knows the situation well, that you feel is objective and will give you the truth of what they're seeing. This can actually accelerate the process for you. So remember what I told you about the harsh truth, that taken objectively is very helpful. Well, we might not have so much harshness right now. Maybe that aspect is sort of separating. It's not as intense as it was on Tuesday, but the willingness to seek the objective information might just be the key that helps you really unlock this and gets you thinking in new ways that moves you forward. You will be blessed by a conversation like that. Physical outcome: good fortune resulting from the understanding of your circle of friends. Again, there is a blessing right now, and we're all going through it, right? Whether we're aware of it or not, there is a beautiful synchronicity right now with everybody sort of processing, again, fear. Some of us are doing it consciously, some doing it unconsciously. It doesn't really matter. The fact is, it's like processing this and making new choices around it. Rather than just believing it, it's sort of a clinical questioning of, why do I feel that way? And you know, Yes, I know what my ego has to say about the situation, but do I actually agree with ego? If I step back and I assess what my ego is telling me could happen, does my ego actually have real proof to back that up? I feel like 99% of the time it doesn't. It's pulling false data and using that to keep you in a state of fear. When you actually start questioning it and saying, like, let's say you're worried about getting a new job and your ego's telling you, well, you might never get a new job again, but you're getting all these interviews and you're making all these connections. What the ego is saying here isn't substantiated. It's only saying that because of the desire, which is, I want the new job. And the ego's like, well, you don't have that, so therefore everything's falling apart. It's not using the data and the facts that, well, I've been interviewing, I've been networking, I've been creating contacts, I've got irons in the fire working right now. In fact, everything is pointing towards this thing coming, but because your desire is, I need that job, and it's not there, the ego can use that and, mess with the mind and be like, well, nothing's coming, nothing's happening, which is not true. It's not true information. Knowing that we're going through this collectively, there's a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, and that is a blessing. That's like, I'm not alone. And that gives us such a sigh of relief. It's like, oh, this is hard kind of for everybody right now. And even though I don't want it to be hard for everyone, there is a kind of comfort in knowing that you're not alone, and it allows you to relax in the situation a little bit. The main message that I would say is that things can work themselves out right now, but our form of action needs to shift. It's not of pushing. It's not about being tunnel visioned and powering through a very narrow channel of energy. Instead, it's taking my hands off and looking at things more objectively, stepping back and asking the questions that I need to ask that will let me know whether I'm operating from fear and lack, or if I'm up in higher versions of myself where I can actually think about what I can give. Because as soon as your brain goes to that, you are in abundance. Remember that whatever you have to give means you're abundant in it. So when you can lock into that and understand, I've got so much patience, I've got time, I've got love, I've got understanding, I've got wisdom, whatever it is, then as soon as you start sharing that, you're abundant in it. And there is an energy that you're trying to create, is a sense of abundance. And abundance, just like fear, ripples out. So whether it's, I have plenty of time to give, so I'm willing to share my time, that's a ripple effect right there. You are being in an abundant state. You will start to see the abundance in other places. Just like when we're contracted and in a fear state and we get fearful about one thing, we start becoming fearful about other things because that energy ripples out. So this is a guide this week of how to move out of lower states of energy and how to ask and work with yourself to move your mind up to higher states. In those higher states, you see more, you get more information. It allows you to be objective and see it clearly rather than emotional and be muddied by it. And with that, it's like the keys to unlock the doors start coming to you and things start working themselves out. I hope you have an amazing week. I hope you're doing well in this energy. I'm thinking about you a lot, sending you lots of good wishes. Mwah.